I love you doing here. You can have
got nice handwriting.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. And everyone who's in theory watching this in the future. So I know last time when we chatted, we did talk about burnout and how self-care is sort of the antidote to burnout and how to prevent burnout. Does anyone remember the candle metaphor that we talked about last time?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I totally had it.
Okay, we can go over it again. I was going to see if anyone.
I know it has to do.
Building up the wax,
Yes,
right?
Yes. Thank you.
Building up the wax, yeah. So thinking of the wick as us and like our amount of energy or whatever, the wick is the us that we can bring to the world. And fire is life. And if you just have a wick and you light it on fire, in about 30 seconds, the wick will burn out. There'll be no more wick. And then if you think of a birthday candle and you light it on fire, it'll take about 3 to 5 minutes, before it burns out. But if you get like one of those big, you get at the mall jar candles, it takes, hours and hours and hours. And so the idea being, we can't change life, the fire. We can't change the fact that is, the world is where we live and life requires a lot of us. And we can't change, the who we are, that we are the wick. But what we can do is add to our resources to help us slow how quickly we burn out. And that one of the best ways to do that is self-care. Does that make sense? And any questions or clarifiers that need?
That makes really good sense to me. I just always forget how to become the heavy wax that I need or how to build the wax around me. But yeah, that makes great sense.
Cool. Yeah. Is anyone? Yeah. So totally. Right. So it's like, oh, great. That sounds awesome. Let's all be the big candle. How do there's no magic wand though, right?
Little candles.
Yeah. Like how do we do that? But I really like to use metaphors and visuals like that because I think they're easier to understand than trying to, it's such an abstract concept. So I think it's really helpful for me, at least, to ground things in metaphor like that. So it sort of starts to get to the why of self-care is like, why? Because we don't want to burn out as quickly. Because we want to avoid getting there, which I know you guys all talked about, that was like an issue that had come up when we were asking for issues. So I'm guessing that no one's like, yeah, I want to burn out.
We're just used to it. I think the biggest problem is we're just so used to it that we're like, well, I guess we'll just keep burning the way we are.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And if you think of like the metaphor of like burning the candle at both ends, then like it goes even faster.
Yes, ma'am.
So then so thinking about that, then like what would all of your individual answers be for like why does self-care matter then?
Why does self-care matter?
Yeah, let's start.
I guess starting with yourself.
I think if can you guys speak up a little?
Yeah, I was just saying starting with yourself is really like step one, I would say, because you really can't be efficient and effective with anybody else until you start with yourself. And so you've got to have all your ducks in a row, I'm not really good with the words, but I know what I'm saying in my head.
Well, I think what you're saying is that you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. You can't help anybody else till you help yourself. Yes. And forgetting, and I think why that's so important. So if you don't do that, you're ultimately hurting yourself and everybody else around you.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like the when we're on the airlines, I feel like what you're saying reminds me of like, put on your own oxygen mask before helping others.
Which is hard. Every time they tell me to do that, I'm like, what? But this kid, no way. But I get it. It's hard.
No, it is super counterintuitive, especially for when we're thinking about different personality types. My assumption is that most of you are helper types. You wouldn't be in the field, and myself included, total like 100% helper type personality, because usually that's the type of personality that's drawn to the kind of work that we do. And what's so hard about that is that we want to help others, right? So it's like, yeah, I have the same reaction, but I'm like, if that oxygen mask drops, I'm absolutely going to look to the person next to me and be like, "You're good, right?" And then I'll pass out from not having oxygen.
You get the mask on them. Yeah.
Right. So it is counterintuitive, especially for those of us with big hearts for others and helping for others. So then I'll have an answer of like why self-care. And you can sort of it can go along the same track we're going on. It could be something different. Just want to give everyone a chance to chime in.
I think it's possible to learn that the self-worth and the good feeling that you get from caring for others, you can learn how to give that to yourself and feel validated by taking care of yourself first. So yes, you do have it to offer to others, but also you're not so dependent on that good feeling, because then you're continually seeking for it in other people, which I think leads to burnout too, because how do you ever establish that and get that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what I'm hearing you say too, is that like figuring out how to take that natural helping and turn it towards yourself and sort of start there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And figuring out, and maybe another time we'll do this. There's one of my favorite, going to the helper thing again, one of my favorite personality tests is the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an online test you can take, and there's 8 different personality profiles. And what I like about it is you can change throughout your lifetime, but one of them is the helper. And it talks about when you're moving from being a helper that's in a healthy state or in an unhealthy state towards a healthy state, it is that figuring out how to be in a reciprocal relationship where you're helping yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have enough then to give to others.
Yep.
Because you can't, you can't give to others. Well, we do, so you can. It's totally possible to give to others without giving to yourself, but that leads to burnout.
Right. Well, it's like the well analogy, right? Like you can't give water from a well that's dry, or there's all kinds of analogies that you can say, and you can. Yes, it's like physically possible, but probably really unhealthy and ends how we've seen it ending.
Yeah. No, all those like analogies and metaphors are so helpful, right? Because if you keep pumping from a well that's running dry, then you end up, I grew up in Florida, you end up lowering the groundwater and then there's sinkholes. So it's like, you keep getting water, but then your house falls in the ground. Totally. And it creates a relationship too, where it's really easy. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this. I know I have in my life, of when you're giving so much to others and you're not giving to yourself, you're also not really open to receive from others. And there can end up being like a lot of resentment and a really vicious circle there too. You guys ever found that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. Cause it's like, I'm giving so much. I need, someone else to give to me, but you're just not even in this receptive open space to get that nourishment, to fill your well, to get the wax around the candle, whichever metaphor resonates with you. What do you guys think? Any other thoughts from the group on why self-care?
Isn't there a statistic that people who caregive often pass away before the people that they're caregiving for? Or there's some sort of, I'm sorry, I don't quote stats very well, but
oh, that's fine.
There's some sort of connection between caregiving and lack of health, not well-being.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to remember the exact study and be able to perfectly quote it either, but I've definitely read that. Yeah, it's especially when exactly the situation we're talking about, when someone gives more than is healthy for them. We all have anecdotal examples of that too. Like I know with my grandmother, when my grandpa was sick, she didn't even know she was doing it, but there was this way that she would move his hospital bed that they had in the house with her hips, and she ended up needing a knee replacement. She didn't even know he hurt until after he passed. And she couldn't figure it out, and then eventually they did figure out, and it was from this way she would shimmy the hospital bed, but she was so, which is beautiful, that she was so involved with taking care of him that she didn't notice the pain, but then it's also to a detriment, so it's figuring out the balance of, how could you still be able to give the beautiful gift that, all of us as helpers have, of being able to really see another human and what they need and help them get that, but with being sustainable.
So for me, balance has been a challenge of a lifetime, no kidding, because once I commit to something, it's all or, and then it'll end up being nothing. And so finding balance seems to be such a good skill. So how do you do that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good observation, right? And that's one of the things I wanted to focus on today too, is like how to integrate these things without adding any extra time or taking extra money.
So Kyrie, I wanted to share, so I Googled that statistic real quick that Erin brought up, and
Google.
Quite a few resources say that a rough statistic shows that 30% of caregivers die before the person they care for. Then it goes on to say how they find themselves getting sicker often because of lack of sleep and making sure the other person's happy and not taking care of themselves. That's pretty significant.
It really is.
That's, I mean, especially considering that the person, you know, that they were taking care of was in theory considerably more sick.
Needy.
And in theory closer to the end of life than them before they started that relationship. Like, holy cow.
You bet. And so then, Misty brought up a good example. You know, we have couples we take care or with, and we notice that one of the other couples is getting sicker because they're both trying to give more to the other. Yeah. So it's happening within that too. And it's just, okay, that's some serious numbers. That's a big deal.
I'm glad I didn't just make that.
Thank you. No, wow, I got it. Wow. Yeah. So crazy. Yeah. Jeez.
Holy cow. Yeah. No, I mean, and thinking around that same thing too, of like the things that we talk about in these workshops and that you guys come up with, like feel free to bring them up at work with your clients too, because obviously this is a, you know, especially when there's like a couple or someone who's, you know, like this is the kind of stuff that everyone can use, and it'd be a great way to help ingrain it in your day-to-day life if you're having those conversations with your clients too. And it's a nice way to be able to again figure out ways to integrate these things without any extra time or money. Like how could you do self-care together with one of your clients, you know? How could you encourage them to do something? You know, maybe you guys can all go for whatever it might be, right? We come up with like, there's like a million different things you can do.
We got to get candles for all of our clients and just sit and have reminders for our candle. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be so fun. So yeah, I wanted to sort of, as we're going to move into this a little bit more, sort of making a definition of like, what is self-care? Because I feel like that can get really like confusing. Do you guys have any ideas of like when we say self-care, like what is it?
Just taking care of yourself would be my first thing, but whatever, that's still broad.
It's so broad. Like what's one example of self-care?
Getting enough sleep.
Yep.
Sleep is big.
Sleep with sleep.
Eating right, not just convenience.
Yep. Eating right. Yep. Totally.
Taking a bath, you know.
Yep.
A moment of silence. Watching a movie. I don't know.
I think it's hard to shut your brain off when you are worrying about people all day long.
It is.
And then on top of that, you have a family or you have whatever it is else that you have responsibilities to take care of.
And Dr. Bill Thomas, when he chimed in on our Slack last time, that was perfect, is waste time. We have to waste time.
Yep.
Take a moment and waste time.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, like, so self-care is really broad. Like, like one of you guys mentioned, I can't really tell like who's who because of the, but like,
sorry.
But the watching a movie, and that's one of my favorite modes of self-care, because that's like the only way that I can get my brain, that I've found that I can get my brain to fully turn off and to just go into a different life for 2 hours, right? It's just like, okay. And that's like a really tangible way. It takes a lot less self-control than reading or meditating to like, you know, and it's like, it's so nice. It's just like, I can just go. So self-care is anything that, like is caring for our body. But also it's just like anything you enjoy doing. And what gets really hard with self-care is that we all have, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, like the voice in our head that judges us all the time. Sometimes it's called the inner critic in like psych and coaching worlds. You guys all familiar with that like mean little voice in your head? Yeah. Okay. So our inner critic does not like self-care and will frequently, maybe you guys have experienced this, I know mine will say things like, oh, you don't have time for that, you don't deserve that. That voice that says like, no, you have all these other things to do, like this is not as important as that, like what do you think you did? And so just sort of knowing that that voice is there in everyone's head.
So you know what, Kyrie, is I think what happens too is what can happen is when you feel that way and you're, that voice is in your head and it's in your head. And then it makes you sort of resent other people who don't have that in their head. And you're just, oh, you must just not be caring as much as I. So it becomes a negative, a negative vibe out in the universe. Actually, you're like that, and you can't even. You're not aware that this is going on, and it's really tough.
That's a super insightful observation. That we get this inner critic in our head, and then we assume that we're the only ones with it in our head too, and then we get resentful to other people for not having it in their head.
You don't, and then you stop out. Then you're not willing to ask for help or be a part of what's going on in a good change. You just are stuck in your own little place.
Yeah. Well, let's at least with the 5 of us, we can blow this myth. So I'll start with I 100% have a ginormous inner critic that is constantly telling me that I'm not good enough. That's okay for other people to do, but that's not okay for you to do. I know even super simple example, even today, I need to change a flight for something we're doing with the tour. And I was I don't want to spend any extra of the tour's money. I can just do this and make it work. And my husband was well, would Samate change his flight in the same situation? Would Jen, and I was well, yeah. And he's so why can't you? And I'm well, because that's them. It's still, it's there, I suppose. And so that's where it shows up for me a lot is in oh, you don't deserve that. So martyrdom comes up for me a lot of just sacrifice, you'll be fine, instead of just asking for what I want. And then when I do ask for what I want, I usually get it, which is I would it's a process. I definitely am much further along the journey, but the voice still comes up, and then I have to negotiate with it and say no. And I do, I'll have actual conversations with my inner critic and be okay, I hear that, and this is the other side, and sort of let them talk. So that's a lot where my inner critic shows up. How about you guys? Where does your inner critic show up?
Well, my name is Kaylee Burke, and I have a very strong inner critic. It owns me, it destroys me. It's made me resent people. I fully hope to be here in 10 years saying that I have 5 10-year pins and I'm doing better. I'm learning to know it's okay to ask, I need this, from you, or I need help, and that I can't do it all, and I don't need to do it all. And that what I've realized especially with this journey and working with people so close who do have a little stronger sense of self-awareness and self-care, how I affect them and how I affect people around me when I'm taking on too much, when I'm thinking that I have to save the world, and then they can see me wither away. They can actually physically see that it's damaging me, and it's helped me become more self-aware that I'm doing no good to the world around me or to myself, my family, everything. And so I do try to have conversations with that inner voice as well. But it is a constant struggle. But now that I'm aware of it, I do feel a little freer and have to just continue to overcome it. But your story I felt very connected to.
Yeah. And it is a process. It's definitely been my inner critic kept me in a lot of really bad situations earlier in my life. And it's definitely still there now, but it's on much smaller things that are more trivial, which has been nice. It's nice to get it on to lesser and lesser things. How about, let's hear from kind of everybody. What does your inner critic look like?
My inner critic, this is Erin. My inner critic thrives on fear, right? So I am lessening its strength by thinking about what is the worst possible case scenario to this outcome if I were to do it or not do it. And then I think, okay, I'm going to do it, And so for me, identifying what I'm so worried about, why I'm so nervous to say something or take a step, and just taking a little bit more time. And then, I don't know, it's just also knowing that people will say no when I ask for something, and I don't die.
Yeah.
I can say, hey, I have this need to be met, and someone can be like, I can't do that for you. And it's well, that's a bummer, but I'm still alive. Okay. Maybe I'll ask someone else, or maybe I'll just, find it elsewhere or something.
That's I love how insightful that is of like, yeah, a lot of times our fear, our anxiety isn't based in like logic, and we can kind of like, you know, negotiate with our inner critic by saying like, well, no, actually, like you're really afraid, but if I look at what that fear is based on, it actually isn't that bad, even if the worst thing happened. That's a really helpful tip too. I found that, that technique to be really helpful. And that's really, I love this. Yeah. So we're getting like the not deserving, the fear. All right. What else do we have?
What's your inner critic say to you?
Anxiety. Not asking for help when you're overextended yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yours comes up in like, so your inner critic gets anxious but doesn't let you ask for the help and support that you need.
Or you overwork yourself or you're just drained.
Totally.
I'm with Misty.
Yep.
I'm with Misty, and probably just from starting a family young and just kind of only knowing your role as like the mom and just taking care of the family and the chores and
not
just
taking time for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because like even when I would sit down and try and watch a movie, my inner critic was telling me to do the laundry and the dishes. That toilet is gross, and I forgot to do. Really, it's just I have a really hard time with relaxing. So I don't
or letting go.
Or letting go. Oh my God, yes. Okay.
I've got even though my kids are older, it's hard to let go.
Yeah.
They're older, they're moving on, and it's like, no, I'm still the mom and I want to
for sure.
This is awesome. Okay, so we all have, so at least like, I mean, maybe we're the only 5 people in the world, but I don't think so. But like, or at least in my experience too, of talking to a lot of people about life, like even people that you would, honestly, like, I feel like the people that you would think don't have an inner critic that seem to have it the most together are the people that, like, in my work, I've seen to have the biggest, worst inner critics. And that's actually a lot of what ends up driving them to do what looks like outer success. And then their inner world is so painful and chopped up. And there's other people that I've known and worked with where I'm just like, wait, what? That's what it's like inside of your head? Like, because what you project is the opposite of that, which doesn't help us because then we think we're the only ones with these inner critics.
Right.
So I definitely encourage you guys with each other, to continue to talk about that too. It can be really helpful to like just name it too, like, oh, my inner critic is doing this, and recognize that it's not all of you, it's just a piece of you. Yeah. Like it's not, I feel like Christy, like it's not all of you that's saying clean the toilets and do all these things. It's a piece of you. Mm-hmm. You kind of separate those out and say like, okay, there's a piece of me that's saying this, and there's a piece of me that's saying you get to watch a movie right now because you deserve it. Right. And how do you just make that piece louder?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Could you just tone the other side down, please?
It's funny how we define ourselves by these things. Yeah. All of a sudden we feel that's who we are. I'm a night owl. I don't sleep. That's who I am. And then not learning to change it, not realizing that's just a piece of you. And that's something you can actually, departmentalize and change or understand. But
But like when you have OCD, issues, and you can't focus unless certain things are done first.
Yep.
So until you have finished those things, you don't let go. But I'll tell you, because then when I do finish the dishes and whatever my plan was, then I can just sit down. And so it's just a matter of like, I don't know, prioritizing what needs to get done first and what can wait.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. It's definitely like, and recognizing that, like the dishes probably do need to get done, before you watch a movie, and like dusting the blinds probably doesn't, like whatever it might be, right? Like there's things that can get put off or like, I know, it's easy to like get in on stuff.
Do you think it's important, I was thinking about, so let's say, like Christy, OCD about gotta do dishes. Now let's say there's people in our life who are there and maybe aware that that's happening, and would it be important for them to be like, I got the dishes, go? Or is that something that is that enabling though? Or how do you
I think I'm trying, like, so I think if you're in a situation where like there's a lot of people and there's people who aren't doing something else, like chipping in to help make the house a great place, if that's a possibility, you know, if you can ask for that support and say like, hey, I really want to like do this. Could we all chip in and like, whatever it is, like finish washing the dishes and cleaning up from dinner so we could watch a movie together?
Yeah. And everybody has a different time. Not everybody wants to do it when you do it. It's in the back of their mind, and they'll get to it, which is okay.
Get to it when they want to.
And I appreciate that they're thinking that they'll get to it. Where
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, this is like totally tangent. I feel like dishes, like you just have to do them right away, or else they end up like.
So then that becomes a personal issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I live communally. Like we live with another couple, and so we definitely have a like dishes must be done really when you're done eating them, or else like it's really unclear whose dishes are whose.
Maybe a schedule, even having like a calendar for who's responsible for what, and then you don't have to babysit everybody, and they just know they got to do it. You know, you just kind of set the tone in the
except for people who fight structure like that. They're like,
yeah,
and life. That's just life in general. I mean, it's you know, that can carry over in many different ways.
It's totally a strategy, and that's like the kind of thing too, where it's like what only you know what works for your life, for your family too, and so it's figuring out what works in your world for the people that are in your world for this, you know, situation you have too, and that's where it's like getting creative about that too. There's not going to be like one right answer.
Yeah,
you know, for that.
About our team as a whole and the work we do together, and how we have all these same different personalities and needs and wants, and how do we find the balance of expressing them and accepting them and knowing and being aware. I mean, it's a challenge, and it's something that we should all be in it together.
Yeah. Well, when you guys are taking the first step, right? Like just even sitting here and talking and sharing like, oh, we have these like same experiences is a really great place to start for like moving forward, you know, starting where you're the same, and then you can accommodate for differences too, and like building that foundation.
Yeah.
So for today, what I was hoping with self-care, since it does I feel like it gets confusing of like, well, what is it? It's such a big thing that it can be really helpful to look at it in different areas, because it is the kind of thing that will end up eventually just being integrated into your life. You know, it's not like, okay, I need to do 1 hour of self-care a day. It's just figuring out a life that is self-sustaining.
Yeah.
So one of the hats that I wear is life coach. And in my coaching training, there was a model for the human experience that I find really helpful to find blind spots. And I just sort of putting this overview out there so you know like why we're going to one part of it. So really quick overview of it that you don't need to remember, because we'll get into each of the different parts in different sessions. But just in this model, it's called the 4 domains of human existence. And are you guys familiar at all with this stuff? Or
No, this is new.
Okay. So it's like, there's like an X, and it just talks about, there's like 4 ways that we're in the world. And like I said, you don't need to remember this because we'll go over it. We're going to deal with number 2 today, but the first one is one of the domains of human existence is in our head, like all of our thoughts and feelings and everything basically that is personal to us, but invisible. Like we can't see it. It's all the unseeable stuff. And then domain 2 is again, personal to us, but it is what you could see with a camera, what you could record. So it's your body. It's, you know, how much you exercise, what your body looks like, what you eat, anything that if someone put a video camera on you, they could like record that part of your world. Domain 3 is more about the collective, but again, the invisible. So that's your relationships. Mostly it's like that. It's like your relationships and that kind of stuff. And then domain 4 is again, something that's recordable with a camera, but it's collective. So it's your environment. It's what does your house look like? Where do you live? Like what, and how does that play into how you are in the world? So what I would like to do in these sessions is kind of do one domain at a time, and look at self-care within that domain to just sort of help make sure. And I find this really helpful when I'm working with coaching clients. There's usually certain domains that we're super aware of, and they're different for everyone, and some domains that you're not aware of at all. So like, for example, there's people who just, their environment, that's a complete blind spot. And these are the people whose houses, you know, they probably wouldn't even put up a picture. Because they would just like, why? It doesn't matter. Like, you know, they wouldn't care about like the lighting, or like, you know, it can get really subtle, but they don't notice how their environment affects them. You know, and there's other people who like are like, my body is here to get me from A to B, and I don't really think about it otherwise. So what I find helpful is by checking in all 4, you make sure to hit whatever personal blind spots you might have. So just over these sessions, you'll notice there's ones where you're like, yeah, like I got that. And then there's other ones where you're like, whoa, I never thought about like, would it make a difference? You know, does the lighting make a difference? Which like, for me personally, I found it really, really does. Like fluorescent lighting makes me feel awful. And like warm lighting really makes me feel better, and blue light makes you more awake, and this stuff matters. There's like light therapy for people, especially in winter time. So like these little things. So anyways, all of that's just an overview. Total brain dump there. So today we're going to deal with domain 2. I think it's the easiest, most tangible one to understand first, and that is our body. And we touched on this last time. I think Dr. Thomas has a really great way of remembering how to take care of our body, which is his mesh thing. And so kind of for between now and the next time that we do this, I just want you guys to be aware of your body and self-care for your body, and sort of looking for ways that you can, without any extra time or money to your day, add in some self-care for the body. So maybe let's just take just a couple more minutes before I turn you guys on your own to do your liberating structure. And let's just go through mesh, and we can just sort of brainstorm things we could do for each of those that would be self-care like. So think about things that you like doing that would fit those, that don't add any extra time or money.
For everybody who just isn't quite as familiar with mesh, will you just explain mesh really quick?
Yeah. So we'll just go through them one by one. Yeah. And then I'll, so M is for move. And I'm just going to quote Dr. Thomas because he explains it the best, which is, notice I didn't say exercise. And so it's just move your body. And like he says, if you want to dance at the White House when you're 106, you better be dancing, you know, at home now. And so this is just about, where are there places in your life where you can add more movement? Maybe exercise is a part of your life. Maybe you're someone who is there's those people out there that just are really addicted to exercise. It totally is part of their schedule. I'm not one of those people. I don't get that. Like I have friends that are like, oh, I have to go for a run. And I was like, okay, I never want to go for a run. But ever, but moving is really important, obviously, for the health of our body and for self-care. One statistic that I really like is when we think about our brain chemistry, 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, meaning like anything where you're breathing heavy, releases the same amount of like feel good chemicals in your brain as a regular dosage of an antidepressant.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty powerful stuff, that like you could go like do stairs for 30 minutes and like it's the same, you know, our brain is capable of making those endorphins that make us feel happy. So movement. So maybe it is something like, maybe there's a place where you can take the stairs instead of an elevator, or park the car farther away from the store when you're walking in. What?
Until you're too tired to take the stairs anymore. Yeah. Take the elevator.
Exactly. I'm trying to hear, like, what are ways you guys can think of to incorporate movement into your life a little bit more?
I think about ways where I even need to pick up something instead of doing it the quick and easy way, do it the more difficult way. That's actually better for your body. So actually squatting all the way down to pick it up instead of bending over the lazy way.
Yeah.
So that's a movement, but it's a really unfortunate movement that doesn't help you much and doesn't get your breath going either. So think about any moment that I have where I can actually incorporate a movement that's the right way and actually makes me work a little harder. So pick out a pen, picking up something.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. Any other ideas of how you can incorporate more movement into your day?
Guys, anything quick that's easy?
For
movement, or just movement, adding movement you can do
do more of.
I've been thinking about just simple muscle contraction while you're just sitting there, like
Yep.
a pelvic floor contraction.
Now we're all doing it.
Now we're all squeezing our butt cheeks.
Yeah, or like, have you ever sat on an exercise ball instead of a desk chair?
Yes.
There you go.
Yep.
You know, it's like little things like that. Then your core is engaged and like your posture is better. And like, it's like teeny tiny things like that, or doing like a standing desk instead.
Yep.
If you have to take a phone call, put in your earbuds and walk, even if it's in the office, like walking around. If you're working with a client, like, I don't know, every client I've ever worked with loves to go on walks. So like go for a walk with your client, incorporate this stuff into, again, like we were saying, self-care is great for the clients too. All of your clients need to mesh. So mesh with them, and have it be integrated. Cause the last thing you want to do is add more things to your to-do list.
We have a client who has got some bone on bone with her knee issue, and prior to it getting so bad that she can't walk anymore, when we first started with her about a year ago or less, we went on a walk on every visit until now. And so
now we have to think of different ways for her to move that doesn't affect that much pain. So what can she do while she is in the chair, or move her legs in a way that works? You have to get a little more
like chair yoga,
moving the upper body.
Moving the one leg that's good too. Like that's why I like chair yoga too, because you can like have like leg lifts and stuff for the leg that is okay. So if there's a pool, if there's like, actually I know I've been to the Y in Missoula, so like go to the Y and go swim in the pool, because there's no
I'd love to get one of their elders in the pool.
She really wants one of the hand bikes, because she only gets to go to therapy like maybe once or twice a week, because that's all that is covered.
Yeah.
But then the unfortunate thing is those things are expensive. So I did suggest we could Craigslist and try to find one that's super cheap to help the family out. But they're very set on the things that they use the gym, so to think outside the box, because they like what they. So we can even make a homemade one.
Well, there's a lot.
But like you guys can brainstorm, with that kind of stuff too. I think
absolutely, we're creative.
Totally are, and use each other as the resources, too, to brainstorm that stuff. All right, so E is for eat. And then, like as Dr. Thomas says, eat a variety of foods. A lot of us tend to eat like one food. Like I know for many, many years of my life, I was a breaditarian. I ate like combinations of bread and cheese, and that was pretty much it. All white. Like quesadilla, cheese pizza, ravioli. Like there's lots of combinations of cheese and bread.
Yeah.
So eat a variety of foods, not too much. Obviously, portions in America are insane, and mostly plants. That's what Dr.
Mostly
Thomas.
Plants. Yeah.
Mostly plants. Like meat products are fine, but just like we want to have a mostly plant-based diet.
It's very difficult for Montanans. We're raised on meat.
Yeah.
but it is just, it's interesting. Yeah.
We just want to switch up the ratios, right? So have the meat, because you need protein, but just like you want to have the most of vegetables and fruits and that kind of stuff. I've also found the best way with food is to just be aware, just have awareness of like, hey, when I eat this, how do I feel 10 minutes later?
Yeah.
When you're eating, really notice, try not to do anything else while you're eating, just be eating, and really notice the food. And that'll really help with portion control. Because a lot of when we eat too much, it's because we're not paying attention to eating, and our hypothalamus doesn't notice that we're eating because it's distracted, and then we eat too much and we don't feel full when we really are. I think, but mostly like just awareness around food will just start to shift how you interact with it. It's when we do things unaware that we, eat a whole bag of chips without noticing, or like, whatever.
It's not my fault. I didn't notice.
Yeah, right. Because it's so easy. They're just like there, and you're just on the computer, and then, oh, where did that whole bag go? We all do that, right? Like it's a very universal thing. And so same like with there's another thing that's great to do, like, with clients, is like just awareness around food, and everyone's body is completely different. For example, I went on a yoga retreat earlier this year, actually, as my honeymoon, because we're weird and yogis like that. And it was vegan. And I'd always kind of been curious about like vegan food. And so for 2 weeks, I ate vegan and I hated it. Like I looked great, but I was hungry the entire time. And I didn't feel good on my body. And so I think like everyone's body is really different, but for some people, like that totally works. And like you were saying, like for some people, like meat really works, like the paleo thing, like that's why there are all these different diets. So really just listening to your body and thinking about food that makes you feel good while you're eating it and after. So that's E. And I'll let you guys, when you guys do your little group, you guys can think more about, how you can incorporate foods in a way that is caring and nourishing throughout the day. And then S is sleep. You guys all know. Yeah. You guys all said that in the beginning too, like get more sleep is one of the biggest self-care. And it's also about like sleep hygiene. It's a big thing right now. And it's just things like insomnia is a really big problem. And I'm sure you guys know from work with elders, sleeping pills, while they will make us like lay down, your brain doesn't actually get the same sleep that it would without them. So figuring out ways, and obviously if it's a situation where sleep isn't happening, those are really great in the moment to just get it jump started, but for long term you want to make sure you're sleeping naturally. And so things like avoiding blue light from your screens near the end of the night, and no caffeine later in the day and all that kind of stuff. I'll let you guys brainstorm those things with each other of how to best have sleep hygiene, because while we want to get a lot of sleep, we also want to get quality in the hours we have, especially if it's only a few hours, which happens a lot when we're really busy. What's going on there? I could see a hand kind of move.
So I was just thinking about we have these moments where last minute stuff comes up with our clients because he's destroying some. Oh yeah. And all of a sudden overnight is in existence for a client that we need, and the only one available is someone like Missy who's here, and she has her mom bring her overnight pack, and now she's like been up for 18-20 hours and taking naps when she can, and we're all just like, and I'm and me as a leader is like, I just kind of need it, and I
or you just think you're getting to sleep and it's like your phone rings and it's like,
I need you. I need you. So
you.
Try not to set people up for that kind of, but then feeling like, what choice do we have? And so that's a really good place to start, figure out how can we better service that situation, because there's no way she's getting good sleep at all.
No.
And I know she'll get the next day off and sleep for 12 hours, but is that really a good situation?
Right.
So I was like, sorry.
No. So definitely like figuring out like, okay, is there a way to like shift up what's happening? And the answer might be no. That's the whole thing with like the candle metaphors, right? Is that there is the flame and there is the wick, and the answer might be no. And so then it's going to be about how can you make, when you do have a chance to sleep, it as restorative as possible. How can you have your wax build up so it's okay when that happens?
There we go. Finding the balance of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. And then H is for heal. And so that's just when we are injured, just giving time to heal and recognizing that healing isn't a way of going back to the way things were. It's a way of moving forward. And I know, and Dr. Thomas uses the example of like anyone who has lost a body part, right? Whether it's a breast or a leg, or, knows that like healing doesn't mean going back to the way things were, but it does mean like moving forward and finding a new normal.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, which I find, I think we get confused with that a lot. And I think that's, especially in the context of dementia, I find this really telling too, of like, I think so often we're looking for ways to move back. Like, oh, I want the person to be the way they were. And it's like, well, we don't expect that out of any other kind of healing, so like really having that perspective of looking forward to like, okay, who is this person now? And that like really healing, even dementia, is accepting like the new normal that's constantly appearing. And that is how we can heal, even something like dementia, or really, and that, goes out to anything that we would call like a so-called mental illness, which I don't like that term, but there isn't really a better one at the moment. But it's just like, it's not about saying, oh, I wish I was this way. It's about saying like, okay, where are we and how do I make that like okay and normal? And not in a way of like, oh, this is bad and so I just need to deal with it, but in like, how do I make the world a world where this can be held?
Yeah.
A thing.
Cool.
So that is mesh. So then you guys have 2 little activities to do together in your remaining time. And please send me notes on what you guys come up with. You're going to be talking to each other. And I know that there's 4 of you there. So for the liberating structure, just have 2 observers and do you guys are going to have a client and a coach, and then just do 2 observers and then just rotate it around so that everyone has a chance to be the client.
Okay.
And you guys are going to talk about your biggest challenge when it comes to self-care related to your body. So thinking you guys can use the mesh paradigm if you want, or just in general with your body. But just think about anything that is visible self-care on you. And then you guys will do a little learning circle to reflect on it.
Excellent.
And just the last thing I want to say before I let you go, I was talking to Kaven yesterday, and he just wanted to make sure I extended that I am available for you guys and for anyone else on the team who wants someone to talk to in confidence about anything that might be coming up. Like I said, one of the hats I wear is as a life coach, and I am more than happy to talk more about self-care stuff and brainstorm how to do things, or if there's a challenge that's coming up for you at work, and I just want to also just name that will be in complete confidence. I will not go report back to Kaylee or Kevin and say hey, so-and-so said, this. I might encourage you to share something that you say with them, but I will keep that in confidence. And it can be nice to have a place where, you can vent without it having, it being in the air afterwards.
Thank you, Carrie, for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Beyond. It's huge.
Yeah.
So I'm here. You can message me on Slack and be more than happy to chat. Cool. All right. Well, enjoy your activities. And Erin, your notes were so great last time. If you could do the same thing, that's awesome for me to kind of know where y'all are at. And then
Awesome.
we'll plan another one of these.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.